Salam Bacha and Khosh Omadid. Welcome to the stream of Las Plumas de Simur. How are you today? Chatori che khabar. This is Plumas and I'm going to be your reading host for the afternoon, evening, whichever time of the day that you happen to be either viewing or listening to this. As I was saying, welcome. Very, very warm welcome to this. I would love to say lovely and chatty and uplifting reading of the Shāh-nāmeh, but I am, hello buddy, how are you? Salam. But I am afraid that it's not going to be as joyful as I would wish because, oh boy, like I have many fails in me, but one of them is doing painful things, not just once, but twice, because am I content with reading this part of the Shāh-nāmeh which is heartbreaking to you once in Spanish? Absolutely not. What if I read it twice again in Spanish and in English? Because what could be the loss? I don't know, my own integrity and my well-being. But apart from that, as Adam Lambert used to say, I'm here for your entertainment. Today we are going to continue with our reading of the Book of Kings, and this is going to be a long one. So my advice would be pick up a snack, have your tea or coffee or beverage of preference close by. I have my trusted tea just in here, in this amazing mug from Eva from Wall-E. I love that film. And it's going to be a long-ish one because we have a lot to cover and because I would not wish to cut the arc. I don't want to cut this episode in half because I feel the events are very much tied to each other and it loses somehow its powerful of narration and of storytelling if I just separate them. So let's do a little bit of a tiny recap of where we are at. As you may remember, Rostam, couple of episodes ago, Rostam met a princess in Turan, in the land of Turan, when he got lost looking for Rash. And he had a baby with this princess. Her name was Shāh-nāmeh, and she is, my God, she's precious, and we should all be like her. But they had a baby together, and Rostam does know the name of the baby and he's never seen him, although the baby, whose name is Sohrab, does know that his father is the mighty warrior Rostam. So when the boy is somehow grown a bit, because you know how this whole thing of growing up in the Shāh-nāmeh, it doesn't really make sense for us, biologically speaking, but it does for them. So what happens is that Sohrab thinks that the throne of the world should be occupied by no other than his father, Rostam, the only worthy person of bearing a crown, and then he plans on marching upon Iran, conquering Kaikavus and kicking Kaikavus's ass, then putting Rostam on the throne, and afterwards what Sohrab's going to do is that he's going to march against Turan and kick Afraziab's ass and put himself on the throne of Turan. Therefore, Iran ud Turan and Rostam ud Sohrab. There's it's a seamless plan if you ask him, and what occurred consequently is that Siavash indeed marched upon Iran, and the events of his first incursion, they're very funny and they're very lovely, and you have the opportunity to meet one of the best Shāh-nāmeh characters in my humble opinion, which is Ghorda Farid. I recommend you to go give that one a listen if you haven't done it yet. But now, of course, the Iranian armies have been mobilized. I mean, they marched upon the White Fortress, which is where the Turanians are settled, at least for now. And Sohrab was looking to, from the White Fortress, we stopped when Sohrab was looking at the Iranian camp with Hejir, who is an Iranian prisoner. And he was inquiring about whose stand belonged to whom and to which soldier, in hopes that Hejir would eventually point at Rostam, because Sohrab, the only thing that moves this child is the desire, almost a desperate one, to meet his father, to meet his progenitor. But that's not happening because Hejir is not going to. He won't betray the confidence the Iranians had put in him. Therefore, he doesn't speak a word. He doesn't point to Rostam, or he doesn't mention him. He just says, he doesn't know him. But actually, in Iran, everyone pretty much knows Rostam. and something fell behind the green screen. So that indicates that the jinn are here. Are you enjoying this? Are you entertained? So many references so far in this briefly 5 minutes stream. Are you entertained? So we stopped when Sohrab receives yet another not satisfactory answer from Hejir, and what he does is basically, well, I will start reading now. He's not happy, and in a very much spawn of Rostam fashion, because if we're going to learn something about Siawash, sorry, I was thinking someone is Sohrab. I'm thinking Siawash is another hero that we will meet soon, but no, Sohrab for this one. When Sohrab heard such slighting words, he turned his back on Hejir and hid his face. Then he turned and struck him with such violence that Hejir sprawled headlong in the dirt. So that's the very last that we're going to hear about him. Sohrab went back to his tent and there donned his armor and helmet, seething with fury. He mounted his horse, coached his lance, and rode out to the battlefield like a maddened elephant. He doesn't take no very well, in my opinion, but I don't know what kind of upbringing has befallen upon this chest. There's a lot of things I don't understand about how, I don't know, I'm not gonna, all right, let's not open that door, at least for today. None of the champions of the Iranian army dared confront him. Seeing his massive frame, his martial figure on horseback, his mighty arm and glittering lance, they said, he is another Rostam. Who would dare look at him or oppose him in combat? Mark these words. The Iranians identify somehow that this person is in some fashion connected, linked with Rostam. Again, keep that one in mind for the future. Then Sohrab roared out his challenge against Kai Kavus. What prowess have you on the battlefield? 17 years old. He is 17. I mean, he's not 17. We don't know how old is Sohrab at this point, but I gave him the 17 because I don't want him to be 12. But he's a child. And I really don't want him to be less than 15. Anyway, what prowess have you on the battlefield? Why do you call yourself King Kabuz when you have no skill nor strength in battle? I'll spit your body on this lance of mine and make the stars weep for your downfall. The night when I was fasting and Zende Razam was killed, yeah, that happened too. And guess who was responsible for that? If your answer is Rostam, yes, that's most correct. I swore a mighty oath that I'd not leave a single warrior living in all Iran, and that I'd string Kai Kavuz up alive on gallows. Is there one from among all Iran's fighting champions who will oppose me on the battlefield? So yeah, big talk, and Sohrab is mad, upset, and very angry. And anger management is not something that apparently runs in the blood of the descendant of Nariman, apparently. I don't know. So there he stood, fuming with rage, while not a sound rose from the Persian ranks in answer to this challenge. Like from the Persian camp. Not even the crickets there to respond. So Sohrab then, his response was to bend low in the saddle and bear down on the Iranian camp. With his lance, he severed the ropes of 70 tent pegs. Half of the great pavilion tumbled down, the sound of trumpets rang in the air, and the army scattered like wild asses before a lion. Kai Kavuz cried out, "Have someone tell Rostam that our warriors are confounded by this child, that I have not one knight who dares confront him." So basically, Sohrab, seeing that nobody dares to even answer to his challenge, he goes completely footloose in the Iranian camp and starts, I want to think, massacring people, because, I mean, that's the point. You want to provoke your enemies until they send you something, some kind of sign. And then Kai Kavuz, of course, his ace of spades is still Rostam. He's like secret weapon. So he has to call Rostams. He has Rostam to be called. It's a lovely tea. It's a new one, and it's quite tasty. Good purchase. I'm proud of myself. And then the person in charge of delivering this message to Rostam is Tuz. Tuz, who, if we are to learn anything from the Book of Kings, from anyone in the Book of Kings, I think is the capacity to forgive that Tuz has. Because shall I remind you that Rostam flinged Tuz in the air and smacked him against a wall, inserting him among the rocks from the wall, and yet Tuz keeps on talking to them. They're still in good terms, they're friends somehow. And so yeah, you need to take just one tiny lesson from the Book of Kings, learn how to forgive and follow the example of Tuz, who basically holds zero grudge against Rostam. So yeah, Tuz took the message to Rostam, and Rostam, in a very Rostam fashion, he replied, because I mean, imagine, just picture this in your head, okay? So there is chaos at its purest form in the Iranian camp, because a lunatic, a 17-year-old lunatic, is going bananas on his horse, do not forget the horse, around the tents and breaking everything, and if he can, purging Iranians with his lands from time to time. But Rostam is very calm, very chill, and he is sitting in his tent, maybe having a drink, maybe having a nap, maybe having, I don't know, a handful of grapes. I don't know, but he is very much relaxed. That's what I wanted to say. So Rostam replies, "When other kings have unexpectedly asked for my services or summoned me, I've been rewarded with a gift, with treasure, with banquets, with celebrations, courtly pleasure. But from Kai Kavus, I witnessed nothing more than constant hardships and unending war." If I may say this, Rostam has a point. We know Kai Kavus is a disastrous king. But if we know something about Rostam as well, as that, yes, he is a brute, but he is very loyal. He is the embodiment, the archetype that defines loyalty. So he ordered that Rash be saddled, and leaving Zabare, who is his brother, not from the same mother as Zabare is not Rudabeh's kid, but he has a half-brother. His name is Zabare. Leaving Zabare to guard his encampment, he rode out with his warriors beside him, bearing his banner aloft. His banner that has a dragon on it, because of his deed of defeating a powerful dragon. When he saw this is the first time that father and son are gonna see each other face to face, when Rostam saw the mighty Sohrab, whose massive frame seemed so like that of Sam, he called to him. See, like, this baffles me a bit, but Rostam, everyone sees him. Everyone sees that Sohrab has some resemblance with the house of Nariman, except for Rostam. And the answer to why is that, I will give in a minute. So he called him, and he said, "Let's move aside to open ground and face each other, man to man." Sohrab rubbed his hands together, took up his position before the ranks of waiting soldiers, and answered, "Don't call any of your Iranians to your aid. You and I will fight alone. But the battlefield is no place for you. You won't survive one blow of my fist. You're tall enough and have a fine chest and shoulders, sure, but age has clipped your wings, old man." Brave. Like, you see, Sohrab is Rostam's kid. How is it possible that Rostam does not see it? They speak basically the same. I find it hilarious. But Rostam stared at the haughty young warrior, at his fist and shoulders, and the way he sat in his horse. He's like evaluating his opponent like a warrior would do. Rostam is not seeing his son. He is contemplating and analyzing an opponent. And he responded, so strong and so young. Warm words and bold. The ground, young warrior, is both hot and cold. Yes, I am old, and have seen many wars and laid low many mighty conquerors. Many a demons perished by my hand, and I've not known defeat in any land. Look on me well. If you escape from me, you need not fear the monsters of the sea and the mountains. Know what I have brought against Turan. How nobly I have fought. The stars are witness to my chivalry. In all the world, there's none that can equal me. And then Sohrab said, I'm going to question you. Your answer must be honest, straight, and true. I think, says Sohrab, that you are Rostam. I'm from the clan of warlike Sam and noble Nariman. Quick digression here. I don't like how the Shāh-nāmeh, whenever they're listing Rostam's lineage, they always forget Zal. I don't know if there's an answer to that. I will need to look deeper into that. But it bothers me, of course, because Zal is my favorite, among my favorite characters, and he is the kid of Simurgh, but they always forget him. I don't know why. Like, he's much better than Sam, and we don't know Nariman, but we can assume that he was just an okay dude because he is not present in the Shāh-nāmeh. So why is it that they skip Zal on purpose and they always mention Sam, which we know was the worst father in the entirety of Earth? But that is just my preference towards Zal. My fangirl, my fangirling skills taking over. Anyway, so Sohrab is asking Rostam for a truthful answer because let's remember that his real desire is to meet his father finally, and seeing such a fine warrior with his build, the size of Rostam, the looks, this aura that he emanates. So Sohrab is almost certain that this must be his father. But, however, nevertheless, Rostam replied, I am not Rostam. I claim no kinship with that clan or nobleman. Rostam's a champion. I am a slave. I own no royal wealth or crown or kingly throne. And Sohrab's hopes were changed then to despair, darkening before his gaze the sunlit air. Now what happened here? How come Rostam did not tell him that he was, in fact, Rostam, his father? See, do you remember when I told you about Rostam evaluating an opponent? Rostam is the fiercest warrior alive, and he is very much up to defend this title because there won't be the day that Rostam is defeated. So he's very up for the challenge. He's very excited. So in this moment, pride covers his eyes with a veil that he cannot tear. He cannot see through it. His heart and his soul, if you might, they're not open to understanding and open to the possibility that that person in front of him could in fact be his son. Not at all. Rather, Rostam is very much eager for the fight. His pride does not allow him to see his son. And that's the reason before such a boastful and bold youngster, he wants to prove that he, without a name, without a lineage, without an ascendant or whatever, he can bring Sohrab down. Why is that? Because he is the most powerful human in creation. And he's going to show it. He's going to prove it once more, as he's done many times in the past. So yeah, it's pure arrogance. There's no other way to put it. It's pure arrogance. Always, let me remind you to cut these characters some slack because This is a book written in the 11th century. So yeah, of course, if we judge this book from the present, as very much I do, for the solely purpose of entertaining, because to analyze properly the book, I have my thesis and my academic work. This is not an academic space. So we are going to be judgy and judgmental. And in this case, the Book of Kings alienates with me, because later on, this pride, this arrogance is going to be addressed. So the reader, the listener, could learn a lesson from it. Therefore Sohrab rode to the space allotted for combat, and his mother's words rang in his ears. At first they fought with short javelins, then attacked one another with Indian swords, and sparks sprang from the clash of iron against iron. It is a very fierce combat. Their mighty blows left both swords shattered. How strong are you? How strong is you smashing each other? And they grasped their ponderous maces, and weariness began to weigh their arms down. They cannot overcome each other because they're both so powerful. Their horses too began to tire, and the blows the heroes dealt shattered both the horse armor and their own cuirasses. Finally, both the horses and their riders paused, exhausted by the battle, and neither hero could summon the strength to deliver another blow. This is how mighty they are, physically speaking. The two stood facing one another at a distance, the father filled with pain, the son with sorrow, their bodies soaked in sweat, their mouths caked with dirt, their tongues cracked with thirst. Speaking of thirst, I'm going to take a sip. How strange the world's ways are. All beasts will recognize their young, the fish in the sea, the wild asses on the plain, but suffering and pride will make a man unable to distinguish his son from his enemy. This is the key to understanding this whole episode. What Rostam is seeing in front of him is an enemy. Rostam said to himself, Rostam starts to, reflecting upon the situation, and he says to himself, I've never seen a monster fight like this. My combat with Diva Sepid was nothing to this, and I can feel my heart's courage begin to fail. A young, unknown warrior who's seen nothing of the world has brought me to this desperate pass. And in the sight of both our armies, who I understand, if you put yourself in Rostam's place, you would think, why does that matter? What is it? What does it matter that there's people watching? At this time and era, honor and reputation are two fundamental pillars for the life of any warrior. So yes, it is very worrying that Rostam is seen, perceived as weak or almost defeated in front of the entire, not just the Iranian army, but the Turanian army. That's the worrying bit. When their horses had rested from the combat, both warriors, he who was old in years and he who was still a stripling, strung their bows, but their remaining armor rendered the arrows harmless. In fury then the two close, grasping at one another's belt, each struggling to throw the other. Rostam, who on the day of battle could tear rock from the mountain crags, seized Sohrab's belt, and strove to drag him from his saddle. But it was as if the boy were untouched, and all Rostam's efforts were completely useless. Again, these mighty lions withdrew from one another, wounded and exhausted. So pretty much Rostam's golden technique is grasping someone by the belt, lifting them up his head, and then throwing them, plummeting them into the ground, sometimes breaking their necks, sometimes just making this unbalanced so they can just lose the grip of the horses and lose their weapons. This is the first time that trick has not worked. So in Rostam's head, the alarms start to chime. Then once more, Sohrab lifted his massive mace from the saddle and bore down on Rostam. His mace struck Rostam in the shoulder, and the hero, with I don't know how to say this word. And the hero was in a lot of pain. Spare me a bit. This is what happens when you are Spanish. Sohrab laughed and cried. So Sohrab has wounded severely Rostam. He has. Rostam is in pain, and Sohrab is just like, no biggie. And then he laughs and cries, and he says, you can't stand up to blows, it seems. You might be Cyprus tall, yeah? But an old man who acts like a youth is a fool. Again, bold. Again, shocking. Rostam, like, how you don't see it. Oh, hello, Platz. First time catching you live. Oh, hi. I'm very, very much welcoming you to this lovely space. Your videos convinced me to get myself a copy of the Shāh-nāmeh. Yes! Oh my God, that has made my entire week. Thank you, gracias muchas, khayli mamnoon. Thank you very much. That is the biggest compliment this plumas humbly can get. I am so happy. So are you up to date to the readings that we are making now? I am ahead. Are you like a little bit ahead of me? Just I want to know everything. And how much are you liking it? Are you enjoying the Shāh-nāmeh, the best book ever written in history? This is the hill I will die on. I expect your complainings and your wishes to fight me in the morning. But yes, like this is the best book ever written. This is a very good tea. I know I've said this, but this is a very good tea. And I am very much surprised because let me share something with you. This is supermarket tea. And my hopes were very low for it, like extremely low. They were underground. But turns out that it is actually very tasty and powerful tea. And I am loving it. Having gotten through much of it, only about the first chapter, but it's great. Amazing. So this is a little bit, and by a little bit I made like 29 episodes before that, after that, sorry. But yeah, you're much invited to stay and to learn about what's happening between Rostam and Sohrab. So yeah, Rostam is clearly, he's lost this first encounter. I can wait for the chapter with the Simurgh. It's probably my favorite mythical creature ever. Yes, preach, say it. This person, they know I am beyond happy with that. I mean, she is my favorite creature. I've dedicated a whole thesis to her. Yes, we have. Yeah, actually, I think that part might be part 10 or something, and this is part 29 if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's part 29. So yeah, we've been covering that. We are actually in the part that covers the story between Sohrab and Rostam. So way ahead of that. But you know, you don't want to spoil yourself, then definitely close this live stream. But if you want to stay, I would be delighted to have your company here. So now, both these warriors felt weakened by the battle and sick at heart, and they turned aside from one another. They're going to rest a little bit. Rostam rode... I'm sorry, I misspoke. They're not just yet going to rest because they're so angry, they're so frustrated with the result of the combat that this is what they're going to do. And once more, Rostam, how could you not see that this is your son? Rostam rode toward the Turanian camping like a leopard who sights his prey, like a wolf. He fell on them, and the great army scattered before him. This is a massacre. It's a bloodbath. And for his part, Sohrab, he just doesn't stay back. He attacked the Iranian host, striking down warriors with his mace. Rostam then feared that some harm could come to Kavuz from this young warrior, and he hurried back to his own lines. He saw Sohrab in the midst of the Iranian ranks, the ground beneath his feet awash with wine-red blood. His spear, armor, and hands were smeared with blood, and he seemed drunk with slaughter. Like a raging lion, Rostam burst out in fury. Bloodthirsty Turanian, who challenged you from the Iranian ranks? Why have you attacked them like a wolf, run wild in a flock of sheep? command. Sohrab snaps back. And Turan's army had no part in this battle either, but you attacked them first, even though none of them had challenged you. Rostam said, evening draws on, but when the sun unsheathes his sword again, on this plain we shall see who will die and who will triumph. Let us return at dawn with swords ready for combat. Go now and await God's will. I don't know if you ever caught on television this series. It was called Merlin from the BBC, and Morgana has a brilliant line at some point in an episode that she in a very cold and sarcastic manner, she asks, killing things meant a broken heart. And this is my question to Sohrab and Rostam, like, why did the Turanians and the Iranian soldiers had to pay for your frustration? Like, you couldn't defeat your opponent. We understand, we acknowledge how that is a very, very big deal for you. But what impulse did you generate from the inside to go completely nuts on the other's army and basically kill what I am guesstimating, as a friend of mine says, around 100 people dead in total? Why? What is the necessity? But Plumas, they are at war. I don't care. There's honor among warriors, and they claim that to each other. They hold it against the others, saying like, hey, I thought you were fighting me. Yes, but you both went straight for the other person's army and killed a noticeable amount of people. Why? And then you still wonder what I don't like about Rostam. If you want to learn about a hero that belongs in the Persian literature and that I very much love, go watch my live stream on Garshasp and the Shāh-nāmeh, because I like Garshasp, but I despise Rostam. I'm not even feel guilty about it. I am a Simurg team. I am a Zahag team. Well, anyway. They parted and the air grew dark. Wounded and weary, Sohrab arrived at his own lines and questioned Human about Rostam's attack. Very quick, refreshing. If you don't know who Human is one of the generals that Afrasiab, the leader of the Turanians, sent out with Sohrab's army. And the instruction that Human have is let Sohrab kill Rostam. And then when Sohrab is very tired and completely exhausted from the fight, you and Barman, your companion, you both go and kill Human, because Afrasiab is pretty much done. Afrasiab, the psychopath? Yes, the psychopath. Afrasiab is pretty much done with Sohrab's BS, to be polite, and he cannot take it anymore. It's just like, it just cannot. He can't with him, and somehow, because I think it's because he is a proper psychopath, he guesses what Sohrab's plans are to overthrow him. So Afrasiab wants to play his cards very safely, and that's the reason he sent Human. So Sohrab comes back and he asks Human, who is a very much experienced warrior, he is a general, so he has life and many opportunities to learn about war and about how defeating opponents, and he's asking about how Rostam performed and the way Rostam fights in order to try and get some knowledge on how to defeat him the next day. Human answered, the king's command, as in Afrasiab, the Turanian king's command, was that we not stir from our camp. And so we were quite unprepared when a fearsome warrior bore down on us, as wild as if he were drunk or had come from single combat. Sohrab then answered, he didn't destroy one warrior from this host, while I, for my part, killed many Persians and soaked the ground with their blood. Bravo. Like, what do you want? Why? What do you want, a medal or something? I don't know. Now we must eat, and with wine drive sorrow from our heart. Perfect. That's exactly what you need for an early start in what could be the battle for your lives. Hangover. And on the other side, Rostam questioned Giv. How did the Sohrab fight today? He asks. Giv replied, I have never seen a warrior like him. He rushed into the center of our lines, intending to attack Tus. Poor Tus. What could this person possibly done to deserve so much pain? But Tus fled before him, and there was none among us who could withstand his onslaught. Rostam grew downcast at his words and went to King Qaboos, who motioned him to his side. Rostam described Sohrab's massive body to him and said that no one had ever seen such valor from so young a warrior. Then he went on. We fought with mace and sword and bow, and finally, remembering that I had often enough pulled heroes down from the saddle, I seized him by the belt and tried to drag him from his horse and fling him to the ground. But a wind could shake a mountainside before it would shift that hero. When he comes to the combat ground tomorrow, I must find a way to overcome him, hand to hand. I shall do my best, but I don't know who will win. We must wait and see what God wills, for He it is, the creator of the sun and moon, who gives victory and glory. Qaboos, very serious-faced, replied, and may he lacerate the hearts of those who wish you ill. I shall spend the night in prayer to him for your success. This is quite a breaking point for Rostam's narrative, because for the very first time in his own life, he's not that sure that he could rise victorious from this fight. And if we know Rostam a bit, I know I've said that sentence too many times, I'm going to use that, which is once more. If we know something about Rostam, is that is his whole personality. I mean, his own purpose in this life is to be powerful and defend Iran from its enemies. And if he cannot do that anymore, that might mean that his time in this earth is just done, because Rostam is a very pious person. We know this, and he is as arrogant as he is loyal to God, so he's just accepting his fate, saying, look, I cannot guarantee that tomorrow we are gonna win, so maybe you as a king should be thinking in, a plan B or something, because I cannot give you for sure the victory. Rostam returned then to his own men, preoccupied with thoughts of the coming combat. Anxiously, his brother Zavoreh came forward, questioning him as to how he had fared that day. Rostam asked him first for food, and then shared his heart's forebodings. He said, be vigilant, and do nothing rashly. When I face that Turanian tomorrow on the battlefield, at dawn, gather together our army and accoutrements, our banner, throne, the golden boots our guards wear, and wait at sunrise before our pavilion. If I am victorious, I shan't linger on the battlefield. But if things turn out otherwise, don't mourn for me or act impetuously. Don't go forward, offering to fight. Instead, return to Zabulistan and go to our father, Zal. Comfort my mother's hat. Not hat, like hot. Sorry. Again, this is not my mother tongue. And make her see that this fate, was willed for me by God. Like this, if I shall perish tomorrow, this is God's willing. Tell her not to give herself up to grief, for no good will come of it. No one lives forever in this world, and I have no complaint against the turns of fate. So many lions and deeps and leopards and monsters have been destroyed by my strength, and so many fortresses and castles have been razed by my might. No one has ever overcome me. Whoever mounts his horse and rides out for battle is knocking at the door of death. It's something that comes with the task of being a warrior. Yes, Rostam, that's a very good point. And if we live 1,000 years or more, death is our destiny after all. When my mother is comforted, tell Zal not to turn his back on the world's king, Kai Kavuz. If Kavuz makes war, Zal is not to tarry, but to obey his every command. Young and old, we are all bound for death. On this earth, no one lives forever. And for half the night, they talked of Sohrab, and the other half was spent in rest and sleep. This is quite a powerful speech, and you know the Shāh-nāmeh has this way of dealing with mourning and with death and with our final destiny, which is basically to end up dead. Because as gloomy and as morbid or like sad it might sound, it is a truth that is very much well accepted in monotheistic religions, and this is a Muslim book written by a Muslim author. Thus, the Shāh-nāmeh always reminds us of our futile existence, our expiring existence on this planet, but there is much more to that. The Shāh-nāmeh does not do that just to remind us that we won't live eternally or that our time here is limited. No, the Shāh-nāmeh does that as yet another lesson, so, you don't think too much of yourself. Because, why am I saying this? Let me just relocate myself in the chair. As you can admire, my beautiful t-shirt from Evangelion. And the reason the Shāh-nāmeh does this is because, I've talked about this a lot of times. The Shāh-nāmeh is a very much political and carefully tailored product with a powerful political message and also cultural, but do not forget the political part. So, in here, the way the Shāh-nāmeh has of addressing the, trying to look for the exact words, the ephemeris of our existence is a way of telling people to don't think too much of themselves, to don't fall into the arms of arrogance, because at the very, very end, thank you for that, Plas, because at the very, very end, we are all equal to the eyes of God, which means our time won't be extended just because you think are a best person, a most intelligent, the most powerful, the most rich, whatever. That doesn't matter to the eyes of God, because he has a plan. He knows everything. Like, everything's catered to his decisions. So you should not think too much of yourself. That's the you shan't be too arrogant. And Rostam saying that is at the same time interesting as it is ironic, because it was arrogance that didn't allow him to present himself to his son. I know that he doesn't know the kid is his son, and so Sohrab has not told him, hey, I'm looking for my father, it might be you. No, but it is an interesting part. So anyway, we're not delaying this because I know you are eager to know what happens next. I'm not laughing. I mean, I am, but because I'm nervous, because I do know what's happening and what's coming, and oh boy. So I shall continue because I don't want. This is going to be a long one. I just take a sip of tea, and let's keep on. Let's keep on with the reading. When the shining sun spread its plumes and night's dark raven folded its wings, the Shāh-nāmeh is a gorgeous book. I love that line. Rostam donned his tiger skin and mounted Rasha. His iron helmet on his head, he hitched the 60 loops of his lariat to his saddle, grasped his Indian sword in his hand, and rode out to the combat ground. Sohrab had spent the night entertained by musicians and drinking wine with his companions, and to Human he had confided his suspicions that his opponent was no other than Rostam, for he felt himself drawn to him, and besides, he resembled his mother's description of Rostam. But yet, this person has not confessed, hasn't just revealed his identity. So this is important. Rostam has said nothing, but Sohrab feels it in his heart. When dawn came, he buckled on his armor and grasped his huge mace. with his head filled with battle and his heart in high spirits, he came onto the battlefield shouting his war cry. He greeted Rostam with a smile on his lips, for all the world as if they had spent the night in revelry together. And he asks, "When did you wake? How did you pass the night? And are you still determined that we should fight? But throw your mace and sword down, put aside these thoughts of war, this truculence and pride. Let's sit and drink together, and the wine will smooth away our frowns, both yours and mine. Come, swear an oath before our God that we renounce all thoughts of war and enmity. Let's make a truce and feast as allies here, at least until we find new enemies or new enemies appear. The tears that stain my face are tokens of my heart's affection for you and my love. I know you are of noble ancestry. Recite, please, your lordly lineage to me." So you see, Sohrab is trying because he knows it in his heart, this connection, this bond, this inexplicable attraction he feels toward this man. In Sohrab's thought, this must be something. But again, Rostam replied, "This was not what we talked of last night. Our talk was of hand-to-hand combat. I won't fall for this trick, so don't try them. You might be still a child, but I am not. I have bound my belt on ready for our combat. Now let us fight, and the outcome would be as God wishes. I've seen so much of good and evil in my life, and I am not a man for talk or tricks or treachery." Sohrab replied, "Talk like this is not fitting for an old man. I would have wished that your days would come to an end peacefully in your bed, and that your survivors would build a tomb to hold your body while your soul flew on its way. But if your life is to be in my hands, so be it. Let us fight, and the outcome will be as God wills." You see, Sohrab he's a little bit bitter about, again, Rostam's negative of him revealing who he is. And he's just bitter because he doesn't know his father yet. But, you know, again, they're very much alike. Birds of a feather flock together. They dismounted, tethered their horses, and warily came forward, each clad in mail and helmeted. They closed in combat, wrestling hand to hand, and mingled blood and sweat poured from the chests. Then Sohrab, like a maddened elephant, struck Rostam a violent blow and felled him. Like a lion leaping to bring down a wild ass, he flung himself on Rostam's chest, whose mouth and fist and face were grimed with dust. Sohrab then drew a glittering dagger to sever the hero's head from his body. And, dramatic T-pause, Rostam spoke. "O hero, lion destroyer, mighty lord, master of mace and lariat and sword, our customs do not count these coups as right. According to our laws, when warriors fight, a hero may not strike the fatal blow the first time his opponent is laid low. He does this, and he's called a lion when he's thrown his rival twice, and only then." What? Plumas, is that a thing? No. Rostam completely made that one up. Because, as we say in Spain, Rostam saw the wolf's ears from in the distance, and he thought, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, I am not ready to die just yet. I am losing it. I am losing this. I cannot afford to lose." So he recurs to lies, to falsehood. Of course. Do you really think there would be such a thing? Like, oh yes, you defeated your opponent, you are basically constricting them to the ground the first time, but no, you should just, leave him and him or her, whatever your opponent is, you should leave them stand up again. And if you can do that again, then for sure, go for it. You deserved it. Seriously? But Shāh-nāmeh is just a child, and believe it or not, he falls for it. He does. By this trick, Rostam sought to escape death at Shāh-nāmeh's hands. Because he really thinks Rostam would not dare to lie to him. I mean, he is, again, honor among warriors. But yeah, no, it's a very big fat lie. That's so low of you, Rostam. And at the very least. So the brave youth bowed his head at the old man's words, believing what he was told. He released his opponent and withdrew to the plains where, unconcernedly, he spent some time hunting. After a while, Human sought him out and asked him about the day's combat thus far. Shāh-nāmeh told Human what had happened and what Rostam had said to him. And of course, Human tells him that was just a lie. Human responded, "Young man, you've had enough of life, it seems. Alas for this chest, for these arms and shoulders of yours. Alas for your vest, for the mace that it holds. You trapped a tiger, and you let him go, which was the act of a simpleton. Now, watch for the consequences of this foolishness of yours when you face him again." Yeah. And of course, Shāh-nāmeh returned to camp sick, at heart and furious, but not just with Rostam, with himself. A prince once made a remark for just a situation like this: do not make light of an enemy, no matter how unworthy he may be. For his part, when Rostam had escaped from Shāh-nāmeh, he sprang up like a man who has come back from the dead and strode to a nearby stream where he drank and washed the grime from his face and body. Next he prayed, asking for God's help and victory, unaware of the fate of the sun and moon held in store for him. Then, anxious and pale, he made his way from the stream back to the battlefield. Quick digression here. It appeals interesting to me how every time that we see Rostam and we are described that Rostam is praying, in the act of praying, he's always very close to a body of water. Sometimes a stream, sometimes a lake, but it's like, I find it very interesting. I don't know if it's just, a coincidence or what, but I like thinking about that. Like, I think it's a beautiful image. So yeah, as you see, Rostam is really, really considering that he may not escape death this time, because of course he's not gonna fool Shāh-nāmeh twice. Absolutely not. There he saw Shāh-nāmeh mounted on his rearing horse, charging after wild asses like a maddened elephant, whirling his lariat, his bow and his arm. Rostam stared at him in astonishment, trying to calculate his chances against him in single combat. When Shāh-nāmeh caught sight of him, all the arrogance of youth was in his voice as he taunted Rostam. "So you escaped the lion's claws, old man, and crept away from the wounds he dealt you." Oh God, Shāh-nāmeh. Once again they tethered their horses, and once again they grappled in single combat, each grasping the other's belt and straining to overthrow him. But for all his great strength, Shāh-nāmeh seemed as tough. He were hindered by the heavens, and Rostam seized him by the shoulders and finally forced him to the ground. The brave youth's back was bent. His time had come. His strength deserted him. Like a lion, Rostam laid him low, but knowing that the youth would not lie there for too long, he quickly drew his dagger and plunged it in the lion-hearted hero's chest. Shāh-nāmeh then grasped for breath and knew he'd passed beyond concerns of worldly good and evil. Rostam just killed Shāh-nāmeh. Rostam just inserted his dagger on the chest of his own young son without knowing. With the last bits of air, wounded Sohrab said, I brought this on myself. This is from me, and fate has merely handed you the key to my brief life. Not you, but heaven's bolt, which raised me and then killed me, is at fault. Lord, for my father led me here to die. My mother gave me signs to know him by, and you could be a fish within the sea, or pitch black, lost in night's obscurity, or be a star in heaven's endless space, or vanish from the earth and leave no trace, but is still my father when he knows he's dead. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for this party of writing. You came to the very, very sad part of this light reading of the Shāh-nāmeh. So Sohrab is saying that my father, when he knows I'm dead, will bring down condemning vengeance on your head. One from this noble band will take side, thee sign to Rostam's hand, and tell him it was mine, and say I sought him always, far and wide, and that at last, in seeking him, I died. When Rostam heard the warrior's word, I know, Tierra, I know. When Rostam heard the warrior's words, his head whirled, and the earth turned dark before his eyes. And when he came back to himself, he roared in an agony of anguish and asked what it was that the youth had, which was a sign from Rostam, the most cursed of all heroes. If then you are Rostam, said the youth, and you killed me, your wits were dimmed by an evil nature. I tried in every way to guide you, but no law of yours responded. Open the straps that bind my armor and look at my naked body. When the battle drum sounded before my door, my mother came to me, her eyes awash with tears, her soul in a torment to see me leave. She bound a clasp on my arm and said, take this in memory of your father and watch for when it will be useful to you. But now it shows its power too late, and the son is laid low before his father. So the clasp that Sohrab's talking about is this gift that Rostam left to Shāh-nāmeh and said, if we have a girl together, braid her hair with this clasp, and if we have a son, just make him use it on his upper arm so I can recognize him. Oh God, yes, Mere, I am very sorry that it's the same in English. I'm doing this to myself twice. I mean, not just twice because I've read this part often. I am a masochist. It is so heartbreaking and so painful every time. Oof. And when Rostam opened the boy's armor and saw the clasps, he tore at his own clothes in grief, saying, all men praise your bravery, and I have killed you with my own hands. Violently he wept and tore his head and heaped dust on his head. If you are not acquainted with the manners of showing mourning in the Persianate, throwing dust or dirt to your eyes is a very clear way and still done to this date. Sohrab said, by this you make things worse. You must not weep. What point is there in wounding yourself like this? What happened is what had to happen. The shining sun descended from the sky, and still Rostam had not returned to this encampment. 20 warriors came riding to see the battlefield and found 2 modded horses, but no sign of Rostam. Assuming he had been killed, they sent a message to Kaikavuz saying, Rostam's royal throne lies desolate. A wail of mourning went up from the army, and Kavuz gave orders that the drums and trumpets be sounded. Tus hurried forward, and Kavuz told him to have someone survey the battlefield and find out what it was that Sohrab had done, and whether they were indeed to weep for the fortunes of Iran, since if Rostam had been killed, no one would be able to oppose Sohrab, and they would have to retreat without giving battle. As the noise of mourning rose from the army, Sohrab said to Rostam, "Now that my days are ended, the Turanians' fortunes too have changed. Be merciful to them, and do not let the king make war on them. It was at my instigation that they attacked Iran. What promises I made, what hopes I held out to them. They should not be the ones to suffer. See you look kindly on them." Cold sighs on his lips, his face besmeared with blood and tears, Rostam mounted Rakhsh and rode to the Iranian camp, lamenting aloud, tormented by the thought of what he had done. When they caught sight of him, the Iranian warriors fell to the ground, praising God that he was alive. But when they saw his ripped clothes and thus besmeared head and face, they asked him what had happened and what distressed him. He told them of the strange deed he had done, of how he had slaughtered the person who was dearer to him than to all others. And all who heard this lamented aloud with him. Then he said to the chieftains, "I've got no courage left now, no strength, nor sense. Go no further with this war against the Turanians. The evil that I have done today is sufficient." That is such a powerful, dilapidary sentence. I think it's one of the few times when Rostam speaks from the heart and actually reflects upon what they are doing on the battlefield. And allow me to read that again for you. The evil that I done today is sufficient. Because he's crossed all the limits that could be possibly be crossed. He just killed his own son himself. And he didn't realize, because arrogance and pride made him blind. Do you remember what we were commenting upon? That he's not seeing his son. He cannot. He's not allowed. He's not able to, because he's seeing an enemy, an opponent. This is how far the consequences of being blinded by the wish for battle and the wish for honor have gone. And it's so powerful and so straight to the heart when he says, "The evil that I have done today is sufficient. I've crossed the last border, the last frontier of what being human means. I murdered my own son willingly, without knowing he was my son, but because he's realizing now all the mistakes he's made and the reasons behind his blindness." Oh God, this is so powerful. Rostam returned to where his son lay wounded, and the nobles accompanied him, crowding round and saying, "It's God who will heal this wound. It's He who will lighten your sorrows." But Rostam drew a dagger, intending to slash his own neck with it, weeping with grief. They flung themselves on him, saying, "Please, Rostam, do not kill yourself. What are you doing?" And then Gudar, who, if you remember, has this capacity of making everyone reflect upon their acts and think a bit before acting, actually. Gudar said, "What point is there in spreading fire and sword throughout the world with your death? And if you wound yourself 1,000 times, how will that help these noble youth?" Referring to Sohrab. "If there is any time left to him on this earth, then stay with him and ease his hours here. And if he's to die, then look at all the world and said, who is immortal? We all death's prey, both he who wears a helmet and that who wears a crown. But then Rostam remembers something. And he says, go quickly and take message from me to Kavus and tell him what has befallen me. Say that I have rent my own son's vitals with a dagger and that I curse my life and long for death. Tell him, if he has any regard for all I have done in his service, to have pity of me and my suffering, and to send me the elixir he keeps in his treasury, the medicine that would heal all wounds. If he will send it together with a goblet of wine, it may be by his grace that Sohrab will survive and serve Kai Kavus's throne as I have done. Hello, Ansho. So Sohrab can be saved because Kai Kavus has this elixir, this magical concoction that can heal all wounds possible on earth. There might be a chance for Sohrab to survive. Like the wind, the chieftain Gudars bore this message to Kai Kavus. But do you remember Kai Kavus's character and how he is not the best person alive? So this is what Kai Kavus replies. He says, which warrior of all this company is more reputed than Rostam? And are we to make him even greater? Then surely he will turn on me and kill me. How will the wide world contain his glory and might? How will he remain the servant to my throne? If someday evil's to come from me, I will respond with evil. You heard how he referred to me. And this is addressing a fight that Kai Kavus had with Rostam previous chapters ago. I think apparently they are way past because they already said that they were sorry, there were apologies made, and supposedly there's been forgiveness for Rostam. But no, Kai Kavus still holds a grudge against him. And do you remember when he addressed me and he said, when I am angry, who is this Kai Kavus? Who dares to threaten me? And who is Tus? So he says no. Kai Kavus had the chance to help Rostam's son not to die. And he said no. Dude. I mean, I know that classical villains are, villains. But Kai Kavus is perverse. He is wicked at heart. He's rotten to the very core. How could you deny help to someone who has served you, who has saved your life countless of times, and he's asking for just one little thing, which is his elixir that could heal his mortally wounded son. And you say no because you fear they would be so powerful together that they will overthrow you. That is completely twisted. That is horrible. There is no lens or scope that we can see this through and think, well, Kai Kavus had a point. No, he didn't. He did this out of pure cruelty. His own bitterness took the best of him. And I know how Zahog is normally the biggest evil portrayed in the Shāh-nāmeh, but Zahog was not this wicked. He was not this I mean, he murdered a lot of people and he killed Bormaye. That was Fereidun's witness, and for that I shall not forgive him, not ever single day of my life. But still, Kai Kavus is much, much more evil than Zahog, and this another hill I will die on. It's terrible. And this is not something when you see Kai Kavus portrayed in like videos and summaries and speaks of the Shāh-nāmeh and talks, they do not address how actually evil and mind-tortured and bitter he is. It is incredible. No one mentions this. That Sohrab could have lived. But Kaikavuz refused to. Gudard heard these words, and he hurried back to Rostam and said, "This king's malicious nature is a tree that grows new, bitter fruit perpetually." Beautiful sentence, by the way. You must go to him and try to enlighten his benighted soul. So Rostam gave orders that a rich cloth be spread beside the stream. Gently he laid his wounded son there and set out to where Kaikavuz held court. But, oh, this is painful. Oh, this is painful. Here it comes. But he was overtaken on the way by one who told him that Sohrab had departed this world. He had looked around for his father, then heaved an icy sigh and groaned and closed his eyes forever. It was not a castle the boy needed his father to provide for him now, but a coffin. So when Sohrab looked for the very last time to the world looking for his father, he didn't see him there. Oof. Allow me to take a sip. Wow. Okay. Whoa. Every time. Every single time. It is as painful. Rostam dismounted and removed his helmet and smeared dust on his head. Then he commanded that the boy's body be covered in royal brocade. The youth who had longed for fame and conquest, and whose destiny was an arrow bear born from the battlefield. Rostam returned to his royal pavilion and had it set ablaze. His warriors smeared their heads with dust, and in the midst of their lamentation, they fed the flame with the throne, the saddlecloth of leopard skin, the silken tent of many colors. Rostam is destroying absolutely everything. Rostam wept and ripped his royal clothes, and all the heroes from the Iranian army sat in the wayside dust with him and tried to comfort him, but to no avail. Kavuz, the nerve! Kaikavuz said to Rostam, "The heavens bear all before them, from the mighty Alborz mountains to the lightest reed. Man must not love this earth too much, for when it comes early and for one late, but death comes to all. Accept this loss, pay heed to wisdom's ways, and know that if you bow the heavens to the ground or set the seas aflame, you cannot bring back who's gone. This soul grows old, but in another place. I saw him in the distance once. I saw his height and stature and the massive mace he held. Fate drove him here to perish by your hand. What is it you would do? What remedy exists for this? And, oh my god, how long will you mourn this way?" Like, hi, Serapis! Like the nerve, the audacity of Kaikavuz going to Rostam, who's devastated, broken as being broken can be, and then saying all these words? My goodness, I would make him eat my entire feast and swallow every single one of his teeth. For it was him who refused to give the magical elixir to Rostam to heal Sohrab. And then he still goes further. I mean, he's crossed all the limits. But then, he takes a step even further. And he asks, how long will you be, in this state? Are you kidding me? The body is still warm on the ground. And you asking Rostam for how long he is going to be mourning the death of his own son, which he himself provoked. Are you for real? You goddamn good for nothing Kaikavus. This is the biggest one. For me, this is the biggest one he's done. Oh my dear Lord. Dude, make the Jinn and the Dib take him away and rip his heart in a million pieces. You know what? I don't think he does have a heart. Like, no, absolutely not. I refuse to believe that there is something inside, something good inside this person. It's just, the epitome of a cold-hearted man. Say it. Preach, Tierra, preach. Rostam replied, yes, he is gone. But Human, the Turanian general, still camps here on the plains, along with chieftains from Turan and China. Have no rancor in your heart against them. Give the command and let my brother Zabore lead off our armies. The king then said, this sadness clouds yourself, great hero. Well, they have done me evil enough, and they have wreaked havoc in Iran. But my heart feels the pain you feel, and for your sake, I'll think no more of them. Una leche. Like, no, I don't believe anything he's saying. Maybe he does not have a heart, but a void. Definitely, like a black hole that swallows everything that is rightful and beautiful of this world. Oh my god, en fin. Rostam returned then to his home, Zabolestan, and when news of his coming reached his father, Zol, the people of Sistan came out to meet him, mourning and grieving for his loss, because they know already. When Zol saw the bier, he dismounted from his horse, and Rostam came forward on foot, his clothes torn, with anguish in his heart. The chieftains took off the clothes and armor and stood before the coffin and smeared their heads with dust as a sign of respect. And when Rostam reached his palace, he cried aloud and had the coffin set before him. Then he ripped out the nails and pulled back the shroud and he showed the nobles, gathered there, the body of his son. A tumult of mourning swept the palace, which seemed a vast tomb where a lion lay. The youth resembled Sam, as if that hero slept, worn out by battle. Then Rostam covered him in cloth of gold and nailed the coffin shut once again, and said, if I construct a golden tomb for him and fill it with black musk, it will not last for long when I'm gone, but I see nothing else I can do. This tale is full of tears, and Rostam leaves the tender heart indignant as it grieves. I turn now from this story to relate the tale of Siavash and his sad fate. And this is where we're going to stop. I am really sorry I had to put you through this, Bacham, but thank you so much for coming to this live stream, and thank you for not making me go through this pain alone again, because I was saying I'm masochist, and we've mentioned this often, how the Shāh-nāmeh is beautiful but has this capacity of opening your chest as you are still breathing, tearing up your heart from its place, then cutting into little pieces, smush them, throwing them on the ground, spitting on them, and stepping on them. And that was what the Shāh-nāmeh does to your heart. It is painful, it is heartbreaking, and I wish I delivered the speech the way it deserves, because madre mía. It's too much. Like, it is too much. The Shāh-nāmeh for sure knows how to deliver a powerful tragedy. And in fact, if you want to know something, this story is, if you ask me, a little bit spoiled when you look for it, because it is addressed as the tragedy of Rostam and Sohrab, therefore kind of indicating that something is going to go terribly, terribly bad. But it has interesting archetypes and interesting reflections for us to make. For example, how blind a man can be in their desire for fortune, fame, and glory on the battlefield, that he is not capable of distinguishing his own son from an enemy and not going as far as killing him. And also how the passing of Sohrab reveals yet again the evil nature of Kaikavuz and sets the scenario for the next story. I am excited, and that's how much I'm going to say, but I am excited because Siavash is among my favorite heroes in the Shāh-nāmeh. The next episode is Smiles, Rainbows, and Flowers, right? I mean, I will try my best, but Siavash is a ray of sunshine. I really, really like Siavash. I think I would have him in my top 5 characters from the Shāh-nāmeh. But yes, it's this is a powerful tragedy, and I am very much happy that you understand my words, like you enjoyed it somehow, quote unquote, allegedly. But thank you so much, Bacha, for coming for the live stream. Thank you for joining me in these sessions that I think I don't know if I said this in English ever, but it is very much true. These having the opportunity to read the Shāh-nāmeh aloud to you was the very first reason that drove me to open this, to create this Twitch channel, because I wanted a space where I can share the most beautiful book ever existed with you. And so yeah, this is the guilty as charged. This is the reason I have a Twitch channel, and yeah, everything as always started with this, same as my thesis, same as my project Las Plumas de Simur, and same as just my life, because I based my entire personality on this book. And thank you so much for coming, Bachar, to the reading. In the meantime, you can catch up with the rest of the episodes on YouTube and Spotify, on iBooks if you use that platform. And thanks to you. I think very, very grateful, and I'm very happy you enjoyed it. At least you lived it for the horrible tragedy that this is. You also received your copy. Amazing. You can drop me a message with on social media, or if you are on Discord, you can just drop a message with your with your copy of the Shāh-nāmeh at home. I would love to see that in your hands. It's very exciting that people are actually buying the Shāh-nāmeh just because they're reading it with me, and they're discovering that is, I cannot explain how much I feast on that feeling. It's honestly is the best thing ever, the very, very best thing ever in existence. I can't describe it. I don't have words in English, nor in Spanish, nor in Persian. I don't, no puedo, I can't. Nemitunam. Yeah, that was my broken Persian. So, Bacha, thank you so much for coming to the reading. Keep in touch, join the Discord server, join the Telegram group to be updated. The Shāh-nāmeh, definitely. Cheers to the Shāh-nāmeh and the people who enjoy it. Yes, it is. Second hand from the steppes of Colombia. Have to wait a lot. Amazing. I know it's not a book that's very easy to find in certain places, but I'm very much happy that it worked. Allow me to say this a third time. This was such a surprisingly good tea. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. I hope to see you soon in the coming one. Again, you can be in touch, and you can be, notified. Yeah, like that word. Notified when things happen by joining the Discord server or Telegram channel. And it's been my utmost pleasure, Butcher, being here with you, sharing again the best book ever created. As I always tell you, do not forget to create, to explore, and to have a lot of fun. Until the very next time we see each other, I bid you Khuda Hafiz.